Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of I Hate It Here, where me and my producer Sam hate the human race so you don't have to. Lots to get through. There's going to be thrills, chills, dare I say, spills, and we're going to be talking a lot about the state of American universities in the second half of the show. Let's get straight into it. So, we've got a piece of news to begin with. We've highlighted some of the antics of Saudi Arabian royalty and indeed Saudi Arabia themselves as a nation on this show before. Let's start with this one, a report from the New York Post, which came in at the end of October. The Saudi prince accused of hooker parties, threats, and fart-in-face demand. Now, basically, what this story pertains to is that a Saudi Arabian prince is accused by multiple members of his staff by acting in a very, how should we say, sexually aggressive kind of way, demanding gay sex acts, including that one of his assistants fart in his face while others watched, declaring, "I am a prince and I do what I want." This is Prince Majed bin Abdullah bin Abdulaziz Al Saud, who is the son of the late King Abdullah. He has a $37 million mansion in Beverly Hills where these orgies took place. In addition to these sort of antics, apparently he's been drunk, taking lots of illegal drugs, and basically sexually assaulting men and women alike. Sam, what do you think about this guy? Is this guy just getting a bad rap?
Sounds like a fun guy to be around, man.
Hmm.
The funny thing I like to think of, what would this guy be doing if he wasn't a prince? Like, you can't get away with this if you haven't got millions and millions of Saudi Arabian money, can you? Fart in my face! Fart in my fucking face! I do
The
what I
thing is,
want.
though, you've jumped straight ahead and gone to the whole what would he be doing if he didn't have money? Can I just say, I've known a lot of gay people in my time, and I've never known one who has ever took any sexual pleasure whatsoever from having someone fart in their faces.
Never met
Never.
anyone that takes pleasure from that. It doesn't have to be gay people. This guy's just out
No,
of
but
his
I mean,
mind.
specifically in this instance, it's a man-on-man action.
Yeah, I don't know.
And again, I don't know any lesbians that enjoy eating farts either. Can can, can you think about anything? I mean, I guess if there's people out there who eat shit, but I mean, like, I kind of feel like a fart is kind of like it's like a diet shit, isn't it? You know, it's like
Shit
why
like
why
me.
not? Yeah, exactly. Why not? It's shit, but without the calories.
Yeah.
Why not go straight to eating shit if you're gonna suck a fart out of someone's ass? I
What's
don't
his
get
finger
it,
anyway?
man.
He's on a juice cleanse.
Mate, that's that. I'm gonna say actually, you've got to be careful when you're on a juice cleanse because someone demanded that I fart in their face. They might get more than they bargained for. So pretty ridiculous. Anyway, so that's the report we want to start off. This is of course in our stupid and ridiculous section. Next, I was gonna file this under police corruption, but this report was just so ridiculous. I had to put it in this section. So this is the report, which is on Countercurrent News. We made a few other outlets that a police officer admitted to posing as a woman, gave 60 men oral sex through a hole, and basically this was like kind of something that he was doing just in his spare time. Where it gets really creepy, though, is that a lot of these guys, most of them straight men, apparently, some of them may have been underage, and then he actually recorded the sex acts and was publishing them on private pornographic websites on the internet. So, I mean, I've heard of, being deep undercover, but like, what is this guy? I mean, for starters, can I just point out, okay, as someone that hasn't used a glory hole,
You sure?
I'm pretty sure you would be able to tell straight away that's not a chick.
Yeah, she's got some
Like,
hairy
look at
lips.
his, yeah, look at the fucking 5 o'clock shadow on this motherfucker. Like, what the fuck is this? Like, oh, baby, stubble. It's what? Like, come on, man. What? And they're all pretending to be straight. Is this fucking real life?
Yeah, they definitely should. You've just been willing participants in this. You might have been expecting a woman at first, but a good 3 seconds in, you knew, homie. You knew. You were just too
Yeah.
deep to pull out. Too deep in these streets.
Too deep in these streets, mate. That's unbelievable. So, yeah, I mean, obviously, just as a word of advice, don't use glory holes anyway.
Or at least look through first. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but you know, or at least really know what you're getting into. But that is just, I'm looking at his face. It's just incredible, isn't it? Like, it's just incredible. But how does someone like that even pose as a woman?
All right, like straight line.
That's.
All right, the 60 men were just straight knew it was a man, and they just.
What you reckon? They all got together.
Yeah.
They all got together and they were like, "Fuck, guys, you two. What if we tell everyone that we thought it was a chick?" I'm listening.
But what about the beard?
Maybe.
Yeah, don't worry. No one will pay attention to that.
Don't worry about that. Don't worry. Just don't worry. It got me too. Okay. Anyway. Let's jump on. So this is, we've talked a lot about rape culture on this show and how liberal progressives try and make out there's a rape culture here in the West, in America, in Europe, in the United Kingdom. You know, like somehow we're all, you know, involved in some mass conspiracy against women. We're all grab happy. We can't control ourselves. Every day, women have to face the specter of being raped. It's just terrible for them. They can't leave their house. They can't stay in and play computer games in case we virtually rape them in Grand Theft Auto or Counter-Strike or whatever it is. It's just rape, 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 everywhere rape. Now, I've always countered this argument by saying, have you seen some of the countries that definitely have problems with attitude towards women? And it's really interesting because these countries are typically, you know, well, Middle Eastern, or, you know, you've got places like India or whatever. It's actually racist if you imply that they might have an issue with women. That's just me being a white supremacist and liberal progressives. So. Yeah, exactly. And liberal progressives only want to tackle fake rape culture at home rather than addressing real issues abroad. Now, just to underline this point, this story kind of blew me away, but I can't say I'm surprised. This is a report from the Guardian African Network, which is that Uber, the alternative to taxi services, are now giving classes to their drivers about how not to sexually harass women. Keyword there being not. They're giving lessons to their drivers saying, you know, maybe when you have a woman passenger, maybe you just don't sexually assault them. Maybe you don't do that. And I can understand why this is needed, obviously, because how would they know otherwise, right? How would they know?
Top 10 tips to not be a rapist.
Here's the thing. So again, we talk about this rape culture in the West and how all, you know, me, you, Sam, we're rapists, but by proxy, of course. And in fact, I'll tell you a story. I want, obviously, you know, I used to do stand up, and used to do some bits about this kind of thing way back before it got out of control. I remember one woman heckler said, like, what would you know about it? You're a potential rapist. And I said, darling, I can assure you I'm not a potential rapist. I'm a convicted one. And I said that on stage. And during a fucking stand-up set, people get really upset about it. Apparently it's a joke that's off limits. Anyway, so there is no rape culture in the West. It's a lie. It's completely not true. But if you look here in 2014, a harass map study, which is basically what it sounds like. It's a map of all the harassment that women experience globally. They found that 95% of women in Egypt had been sexually harassed. This was often while they were walking alone down the street, and quite commonly in broad daylight or while they were using things like taxis. Now, isn't it amazing that these instances of genuine, what I would like, if you were going to apply the term rape culture, this seems to apply, right? I mean, but why do we never talk about this? Why is it racist to talk about this? It's almost as if the progressive left cannot get its values aligned. It cannot get all of its ducks in a row. What do you think of this one?
Yeah, but this problem takes, actual solving. We're not interested in that. We like Tumblr posts that do nothing that we can rage about. This requires education and actual work. Fuck that. Egypt's fine. Leave it be.
Yeah, I mean, instead we can just pretend that women are being raped on university campuses, when in actual fact, statistically, sexual assaults, rape, and instances of non-consensual sex are at an all-time low, probably because everyone's too afraid to just have sex in general. I would imagine people getting laid at university is at an all-time low because we have created a culture of fear. Now, interestingly enough, that leads us on to this next story, which, isn't it interesting how we talk about sexual harassment and the perceptions we have about sexual harassment? It's this blight upon women in the West. And again, as I said, women can't leave their home. It's terrible environment we live in. So I will address you to ABC News report about Washington police wanting to arrest one of two women who were wanted in a twerking attack. A twerking attack. This man was caught on CCTV footage being what they are defining as sexual abuse. Apparently, if you twerk against somebody, against their will, it constitutes a sexual assault. You can be arrested. You can go to jail for this. Sam, I'll ask if it's possible. If you could just play that video so people can see this horrifying attack for themselves.
I will do. The problem is we got a 6. There we go. Caught off the ad.
That's fine. I don't mind. They can get rich on our channel.
When I watched this the first time, I was like, that is annoying, but the word sexual assault never really came into my mind.
Well, this is the thing. This is the thing, Sam. I would be content 10 years ago to dismiss this as just ridiculousness. Two drunk women dressed up. They want to go out. They see a good-looking dude. They're trying to get some attention. I mean, sure, they're being a bit OTT here. They're trying to pull the phone away and being a bit, over the top. But here's the thing. These days, when you've got guys who are like being called rapists for like looking at someone, well, fuck it. What's good for the goose is going to be good for the gander. And what the progressive left and radical feminists don't realize is all of the laws and legislature that gets used against guys, right, for not doing a whole lot of much, eventually you're setting a precedent that will get used against your own, your own people. Now, I don't know if women are going to stand by a woman's right to twerk, whether they're going to come out and say that this is harmless. But I don't know. I think it's interesting that this is the kind of thing that if a guy was doing it, I mean, we all would sit here, we wouldn't even feel comfortable making a joke about it. Yet actually, when a woman is twerking against a dude, all of a sudden it's a bit fun and interesting. For me, I got to be honest, I think that's harmless. I don't think the guy was under threat at any time. But if we're going to create laws to protect people, they've got to be unilaterally enforced, and they've got to be enforced consistently across the board. So there you go. Twerk attacks, people. Twerk attacks. You've got to be careful. Watch out for those things. Anyway, next up, we move into from the comedic, and now all of a sudden we move into the, I would say, tragic. I mean, this is one of the most tragic stories I have heard in a long, long time. This is a story, I'm using the report, it was in the Telegraph. It was picked up by multiple news outlets. Apparently, it's been verified as being genuine, although there are some people thinking this is still some sort of viral marketing, which I believe it has to be. But anyway, this is the report on the Telegraph. You'll see why I picked the Telegraph very soon. But the headline is, Chinese man with terminal cancer married a sex doll so as not to leave a grieving widow. He said he didn't want to leave a widow behind when he died, so he married a sex doll. Now, I got to say, alternatively, you could have just not married the sex doll and you don't leave a widow behind.
Could have definitely done that. Could have just had a wank.
You
could have just done.
Yeah, you definitely. But here's the thing. I mean, like, first of all, that's a pretty good doll, right? I'm just going to put that out there. Yeah. I mean, he definitely spent a lot of money on that doll. I have no idea if they consummated the relationship before marriage or after. But you can see from the photographs. I mean, what do you think of the one near the bottom where he's just kissing its hand? That's got to be the creepiest or the sexiest, I guess, depending on where you stand on it.
That one is
So,
pretty creepy.
but I
That
mean,
one you
I
can
can't.
tell it's really fake as well, so it looks even worse. Looks like just like a mannequin in that one. It's just depressing.
I mean, the dude. If this is genuine and the dude has terminal cancer, I mean, he looks way better than I do.
Yeah.
Like with
What have
terminal
you done,
cancer
mate?
than I do, supposedly in the prime of my life. Like, so just saying, he's got more hair, right? Like he's slim. He's not a bad looking dude. Anyway, this is the reason why I picked the Telegraph. If you scroll down past that, you will see one of the best polls I've ever seen. Should people be allowed to marry sex dolls? The three answers are: it is a human right, it is an abomination, or it's Adam and Eve, not Adam and RoboCop.
Oh, oh, I gotta see the results. There's a way to see the results. I'll say it's a human right.
I guess you have to
29% of people think that it's Adam and Eve, not Adam and RoboCop.
To be fair, you've got to click on anything that mentions RoboCop. Don't you? You know that, I know that. But I mean, like they must have been pissing themselves, like doing that poll, like in the Telegraph office. Like, holy fucking shit, dude. You know what I mean? But the idea as well that there's 18% of people out there who've read this story and clicked on it saying it's an abomination.
Who gets angry at that? What is this? It's a disgrace.
A dying man marrying a doll, harming no one. Abomination. The cancer can't take it fast enough for me. Yeah, it's unreal, isn't it? Like, who gets fucking angry about that? Who in the fucking right mind gets angry about that? What a fucking joke, dude. Anyway, are you all right? Are we okay to proceed? It's going to get serious now. We're moving into the serious part of the show. Segueing in there. So, obviously, we do lots about police corruption as part of this. The people who are elected to protect, well, not elected, or rather employed to protect and serve the people who have supposedly chosen this life. So we'll start off with a mild example of police corruption by comparison to the vast amounts of it that are in the headlines. This is from Vancouver, and this is basically that police officers chose to watch pornography, skip work, take the day off, rather than investigating a missing woman. So there's going to be some testimony coming in that this happened. She has given, this is the Corporal Catherine Galliford. She's going to give evidence against the Vancouver police force. So she's the heroine of this particular story, and she's going to give a 115-page statement over, which goes back to the attempted tracking of a serial killer in '99. There was 14 women murdered in a 3-year period by this serial killer. And she talks about how the police elected to watch pornographic videos, go out drinking. Just, there was, put it this way, it wasn't like The fucking Wire, right? It was, they weren't going deep in it. They were just fucking chilling. And not put it this way, I could be wrong. Maybe there's some sort of systemic failing, like they wouldn't pay overtime or whatever. But then again, just to underline how ridiculous it is, one of the allegations is that there was an officer, basically, who just, fuck it, I'm just going to watch pornography. Not even in a private setting, like just, I'm sorry. Yeah, it just didn't work. I'm just going to watch some porn while I'm on the clock.
No, I haven't got any headphones. No, sorry about
that. Yeah, you're going to have to listen to this. So that was that. That's interesting. I can't wait to see how that court case comes out. Next up, reported in the Huffington Post, what a surprise. The U.S. Border Patrol, their staff are rejecting a report which says they should be wearing body cameras. So basically, all of the body cameras, this is a movement that's happening to protect civilians, to protect people's rights, their fundamental human rights from the police. The Border Patrol, which have received numerous reports about cruel and not enforcing the law and laws appropriately towards people they catch, they're saying they will not wear body cameras after an internal review deems it unnecessary. Kind of like, hey, Sam, me and you, I'm going to do an internal review to see if we should, declare how much money we're making and give some of it to charity. Guess what? My internal review says I'm not going to do that. Do you agree?
Yeah, so.
Brilliant. Sound. God, we just got to keep all the money. So even though the president himself, President Barack Obama, supports using police body cameras, his administration itself has pledged millions of dollars to all local police departments and law enforcement agencies across America to get these cameras put in place so we can reduce the number of civilian deaths or perhaps start getting some reparations for those wrongfully killed by police when in police custody. Meanwhile, the Border Patrol are pushing back against this, which is a countrywide mandate, a president mandate itself, and they're pushing back against it and saying that they don't have to do it. In defense of the report, they've come out and said, hey, it's only a draft. We might review it again later. So
yeah, one of their reasons was like, oh, it's too complicated and expensive. No, it's not, mate. It's a GoPro on your chest. Let's be real. It's like $200. Stop chimping.
Yeah, if some 14-year-old wanker in a skate park can do it,
yeah, exactly.
Why can't a fully trained law enforcement official do it?
If the kids on Instagram filming themselves driving their car can do it, I'm sure you can handle it, mate.
So fairly ridiculous. Then we move on. This is a bitter pill. Hard to swallow, but I'll bring up the latest in this, which was just 5 hours ago in The Independent. For those of you who've been following the news, you will know that there have been 2 Louisiana police officers arrested for killing a young boy, a 6-year-old boy, who they shot while pursuing his father. This happened 8 days ago on November the 3rd. Basically, what they did was they shot the father, and the father was seriously wounded, but unfortunately the 6-year-old son caught a fatal bullet and was buried this Monday. The police officers have a checkered history. It has been revealed today when one of the officers was sued successfully for using a stun gun on a woman in handcuffs. Another lawsuit during the same year accused the officer of breaking a schoolgirl's arm while breaking up a fight on a school bus. In 2013, both officers were named in excessive force lawsuits, and they stood by and watched another officer assault a teenager. And in 2014, a jury awarded $50,000 in damages to a man who made claims against Officer Stanford, only arresting him after submitting complaints about excessive force, about harassment against him. So these people have been serially corrupt. In fact, in 2011, Officer Stanford was indicted after allegedly raping a 15-year-old girl, but the charges were dismissed, although there is no court documentation as to explain why it was dismissed. Both of these officers are currently held on $1 million bonds on second-degree murder and attempted second-degree murder charges. Now, as we can see here, what we know firsthand is that this is, again, what happens systemically within the police force, where they allow corrupt police officers to get away with what they do, to get away with their corruption time and time and time again. It creates an idea that these police officers are, untouchable. They believe that they will never be held accountable for their actions, and things progress and get worse. Now, had these officers been rightfully removed from the force the first time that they abused their powers, and this includes, like I say, the numerous instances of excessive force, breaking a young girl's arm, while breaking up a fight. They've been allowed to skate time and time again while flaunting the rules, not adhering to the rules that are there to protect the safety of the civilians. And let's not forget, it is protect and serve, not murder and
not
serve.
Rape. Not rape and serve.
Yeah. Right, well,
maybe
it's definitely not that.
Maybe they need some Egypt lessons, mate. Maybe Uber needs.
I know, yeah. Maybe we can get them on a course. But these people have been allowed time and time again, and empowered time and time again by their employers to basically get away with this. And that's exactly what's done. Now, for me, I just want to prepare everyone. Spoiler: this is how this story ends. They won't do jail time. They never do in America. The police force never do any jail time when they commit these atrocities against the citizens that they are sworn to protect. It always ends with, okay, at worst you lose your job. They will not put these men in prison. And I've got to wonder how many more lives are going to be lost. This is slightly different. This isn't even up for debate. They discharged firearms while a 6-year-old child was present while in pursuit of a felon, and they killed that child. It should be open and shut, but this is an American court, and of course the police are allowed to behave in any way they see fit while dispensing justice. So fairly shocking story there. One I'm sure is not going to have a happy ending. And people might want to try and say, well, you can't put the police in prison. It's pretty much a death sentence. Well, perhaps they'll think about that next time they're discharging firearms when there's 6-year-olds present, or breaking civilians' arms, or, as we've seen in multiple instances, choking homeless people to death, tasering people with mental health problems, the numerous beatings, the numerous shootings. I mean, currently, we're about to hit a record of civilian deaths in a single year from police officers in America. There is a problem. It is a systemic problem. It needs to be addressed. And the longer it isn't addressed with measures like body cameras, then there's going to be more and more deaths, and more police going to get away with it. And as I always say, I always thought that the American people were empowered to protect themselves from anybody that was basically removing their constitutional rights. When people held office and abused powers against them, there are constitutional rights that protect you from this. And yet everywhere, America seems to be almost apologizing for police officers that continually break these kind of laws and continually impinge on citizens' freedoms and welfare. It's got to stop. Next story. This is a nice bit of corporate corruption, because why not? Now, I'm sure many of you will be familiar with the company called Monsanto. Basically, this is a company that has had so many black marks against it down the years. It's been involved in all sorts of stuff. It's been involved in controversies in Argentina pertaining to genetically modified foods. It's been caught doing corporate manslaughter, I should say, where companies expose their workers who are working in terrible sweatshop conditions to dangerous chemicals or dangerous conditions, which include them being killed. Indeed, if you look at India, you'll be able to see this. There was ridiculous instances of farmers actually committing suicide in some instances. There was a high level of fatalities. There was just unreal stuff over there, genetically modified cotton production. They're obviously big lobbyists, as most big companies in North America are, and they indeed have paid something like, I don't even know, I think on an average year, they typically spend somewhere in the region of about $10 million lobbying big government to allow them to basically continue some of their more unethical practices. Now, interestingly enough, when we get to this was a Yahoo News report, which basically said that the Environmental Protection Agency, which had been conducting a study into 52 chemicals, and whether or not any of them could be classified as what's called an endocrine disruptor. This is substances that are that can interfere with your hormonal system, can cause cancers, birth defects, developmental disorders. Well, while this was happening, and some of the Monsanto chemicals that they like to use were being potentially classified as carcinogens, cancer-causing agents. The basically federal agency that was investigating this, the government agency that was investigating that, used Monsanto money to declare that the weed killer product that was at the heart of this big claim that it was causing cancers and could be an endocrine disruptor. They used Monsanto money to conduct the study. Guess what? Determined it was safe to use.
That is literally the analogy you gave earlier about we had to do the indictment on our own tax. Oh yeah, no, sound, mate. No, any money. No, definitely no cancer in you, mate. No.
Yeah.
Shh. Eat the corn.
So, I mean, it's one of these things. And look, here's the thing. I'm not even going to talk about the veracity of the study because I'm not scientifically qualified. What I will say is that if you're going to be taking money from a company that produces something that is up for review, this is a clear, massive conflict of interest. And this isn't the only types of conflict of interest we see in America. We obviously see all sorts of people that were like, formerly on oil companies and petroleum companies that get brought into the environmental agency. And they're like, well, we don't see any problem with just mining the planet dry, actually. It's we're pretty sure that, global warming's not real, even though it's been proven that some of the bigger companies knew about the very real dangers of climate change as early as the 70s, and yet said nothing about it, did nothing about it. In fact, actively took money and used it to lobby people to suppress scientific research. And these people, of course, are now part of federal agencies that continue to compound the problems that people face. So you won't read about this one very much on Reddit. Bizarrely, whenever Monsanto is brought up on Reddit, a lot of the times the news reports disappear. This is often removed on the basis that it's hysterical, that you're a conspiratard or whatever. But this news story actually did make it to the front page, where it remained for a while, and then obviously it did its course. There was a few people in there basically kind of apologizing and on behalf of Monsanto and saying, "Hey, don't worry about it. It's all good. It's all safe." So forget the conflict of interest.
Didn't cigarette companies do the exact same thing when the
yeah, of course they did. Yeah.
Cigarettes first come on. How can we fall for this twice? How is this happening twice? Come on.
Well, way more than twice. The bottom line is this is just how it works in American business. The corporations that obviously it's all about the bottom line. That as I've always said, a corporation is basically a capitalist manifestation of what would be called in an individual psychopathy. It's where you have no empathy whatsoever, except about the best outcome for yourself. This is unfortunately was now starting to influence very real policy that is affecting the safety of, again, American citizens. And of course, it doesn't just stop in America. This is a global problem. The big corporations that are based in America use third world labor, which obviously that has its own problems. And then they ship products that may or may not be safe for public consumption worldwide, globally. So everyone gets fucked over in their own little way. While meanwhile, the 1% in America, of course, are all fine and dandy. Anyway, let's quickly move on. This is now we move into the university special. Obviously, lots going on in American universities these days. We're going to get into Yale and Missouri very soon. But let's just start with this. This kind of sets the tone quite nicely, I think. So this was at the start of November, again, about 8 days ago, where an investigative journalist went to a university. It was the Vassar College, went to the Vassar College campus, and they basically asked the professors and the lecturers there to shred the Constitution, that is the American Constitution, on the grounds that it is triggering. Now, there's a video there, Sam. I will let you basically play that video.
Love a good triggering, mate. It's 12 minutes. Can you highlight me the bits I need to see? Oh, here we go.
Yeah, if you just start it off, you'll get the gist once it's had a few minutes in, because it's got subtitles.
Walk around campus and see the Constitution.
When she tells the woman and she just deep breathes, she's just like, this bitch.
Honestly, can we just like, is there like a shredder or something? I think it might be like really therapeutic to see that.
And just to say over the top of this, anyone doubting the veracity of this was set up by Project Veritas. This is from the journalist James O'Keefe, who became famous after he did the Undercover Acorn videos. So sadly, this isn't staged, this is real.
Thank you. That made me feel better.
I'm de-triggered. Now he's wearing a Constitution suit. Like, are we done with this now?
Yeah, I think we can be done with that. But anyway,
it's muted. We'll just watch him dance as you speak. As the
okay. Well, anyway, so why are the American universities wanting to shred the Constitution? Why has this safe space culture took precedent over people's constitutional rights, over people's rights to personal freedoms? I have no idea why this is the case. And it's happening. The kind of erosion of the development of critical thinking, the erosion of the development of exploring ideas, intellectual spaces, it's being destroyed because of this idea that because this new generation of student is paying for the experience of going to university, they are customers that get to dictate every facet of the experience that they have at university. Now, I was involved with student politics on numerous occasions. I absolutely support student activism. But this isn't activism. This is students now getting to a stage, and universities getting to a stage where they are willing to go to great lengths to actually remove any sort of experience that may cause you to be a bit more critical or intellectually aware of the other side of the argument, or to think. Now, the reason this becomes a big deal is because recently you will have seen that, according to this report on thefire.org, there was a huge issue on Yale, which is one of the premier universities in America, where over an argument in regards to Halloween costumes, again, being triggering and violating safe space policy, students had sent an email to the kind of dean, the person who is there to protect the campus and enforce the safe space, enforce this safe space policy, basically saying that they had huge concerns. And in that email, which I'll read for you, the email included some bullet points saying this is a growing national concern in campuses everywhere, and we encourage Yale students to take time to consider their costumes and the impact it may have. If you are planning to dress up for Halloween or will be attending any social gatherings, think about the following. Wearing a funny costume is the humor based on making fun of real people, human traits, or cultures. Wearing a historical costume, if this costume is meant to be historical, does it further misinformation or historical and cultural inaccuracies? If you're wearing a cultural costume, does the costume reduce cultural differences to jokes or stereotypes? Wearing a religious costume, does this costume mock or belittle someone's deeply held faith tradition? And then ask yourself this: could someone take offense with your costume, and why? And then that email linked a resource which was put together by this Yale community of students about what was cool and what wasn't. Anyway, so we then get on to the response, which was from Erica Christakis, who was replying by saying, they actually find this faintly ridiculous. And she says, I don't want to trivialize genuine concerns about cultural and personal representation and other challenges to our lived experience in a plural community. I know that many decent people have proposed guidelines on Halloween costumes from a spirit of avoiding hurt and offense, and I laud those goals in theory, as most of us do. But in practice, I wonder if we should reflect more transparently as a community on the consequences of an institutional, which is to say bureaucratic and administrative exercise of implied control over college students. So far, so reasonable. You would think, how could anyone get upset with this? She then goes on to say, as a former preschool teacher, for example, it is hard for me to give credence to a claim that there is something objectionably appropriative about a blonde-haired child's wanting to be Mulan for a day. Pretend play is the foundation of most cognitive tasks, and it seems to me that we want to be in the business of encouraging the exercise of imagination, not constraining it. I suppose we could agree that there is a difference between fantasizing about an individual character versus appropriating a culture wholesale, the latter of which could be seen as tacky, offensive, hurtful, take your pick. But then I wonder, what is the statute of limitations on dreaming of dressing as Tiana the Frog Princess if you aren't a black girl from New Orleans? Is it okay if you are 8 but not 18? I don't know the answer to these questions. They seem unanswerable, or at the least, they put us on a slippery terrain that I, for one, prefer not to cross. And then the final point, which is perhaps the one that is best made, says, again, speaking as a child development specialist, I think there might be something missing in our discourse about the exercise of free speech, including how we dress ourselves on campus. And it is this: what does this debate about Halloween costumes say about our view of young adults, of their strength and judgment? In other words, whose business is it to control the forms of costumes of young people? It's not mine. I know that. Happy Halloween. Well, first of all, Sam, does that email sound reasonable?
Yeah.
Well worded.
Should have just ended it with wrecked.
Yeah, intellectually accurate. Well, unfortunately, that response led to multiple students saying that they no longer felt safe because they dismissed their concerns about Halloween costumes and refused to legislate what was okay and what wasn't okay on campus. Now, Sam, if you can play the video, I'm sure some of you have already seen it. This video ended in a confrontation between one student who was later found to be somebody from a privileged background, as most Yale students are, and a professor whose job it was, supposedly, an elected representative, actually, to look after the student well-being on campus. It's only 1 minute 20, so Sam, I'll let you play that now.
Sending out that email, that goes against your position as master. Do you understand that? Then
No, I don't agree with that.
Then why the fuck did you accept the position?
Because
Who
I have
the
a
fuck hired you?
I have a different
You
vision
should
than you.
step down. If that is what you think about being a master, you should step down. It is not about creating an intellectual space. It is not. Do you understand that? It's about creating a home here. You are not doing that.
You're supposed to be
going
our
against
advocate.
that. You should be at the event lesson when you hear a Franco say that she doesn't know how to create a safe space for her freshmen in Silliman. How do you explain that? These freshmen come here, they think this is what Yale is? Do you hear that? They're gonna leave, they're gonna transfer because you are a poor steward of the community. You should not sleep at night. We're out, we out. You are disgusting.
There we go, mate.
So, I mean, apart from the somewhat obvious fact that a student is declaring Yale University to not be an intellectual space, which I think is perhaps the most telling statement about these people, about this modern wave of American students, I think it's also worth noting just a few facts about the person she was arguing with. A former Yale graduate who won the Russell Henry Chittenden Prize went on to get an MD from Harvard, a master's in public health, in addition to winning the Bowdoin Prize, who then got a PhD in sociology from the University of Pennsylvania, someone who has worked as a physician, was awarded tenure at the University of Chicago as a professor of sociology and medicine, and has contributed a shitload of research, which has all been published and peer-approved. The person that is being argued with in this video even did a TED Talk. And this person has to stand there and be berated by some fucking idiotic student who doesn't even know what the fuck she wants. And here's the thing. It doesn't even end there. In fact, actually, one point to make at this juncture. If you're wondering why they're clicking their fingers, Sam, if you could bring up the link that explains that. This is because this current wave of students believe that clapping your hands itself can be triggering. This is absolutely genuine. And this isn't something that's just happening on American campuses. We have that in the UK now, where they either click their fingers or, more bizarrely, use jazz hands, which I would have thought would be racist, perhaps. I don't even know anymore. But this is why they are clicking their fingers in that video. It is not about a fashion statement. It's not some trend young kids are doing. It is specifically about not triggering people. Yes, those harmless trigger warnings that everyone seems to support. This is what it leads to. This is what it leads to if it goes unchecked. So you can Google this. This is verifiable. Students now will not clap to show support. It is too triggering to applaud somebody. Anyway, you would think this would be the end of the discussion. Sadly not. Sadly not. There was an op-ed as well that undermines, sorry, not undermines, but sort of underlines the feelings of students and just how delicate these students are. This was in the Yale Herald. It was an op-ed called "Hurt at Home," and you can see exactly what they think about it. I mean, it is unbelievable. This is what they say is happening as a result of no legislature being put in place about Halloween costumes. Quote, "I have had to watch my friends defend their right to this institution. This email and the subsequent reaction to it have interrupted their lives. I have friends who are not going to class, who are not doing their homework, who are losing sleep, who are skipping meals, and who are having breakdowns. I feel drained, and through it all, Christakis has shown that he does not consider us a priority." So, I mean, I don't know what to say about this generation of students. If you're literally getting that fucking ill, I mean, obviously this is all a lie, but if you are getting so, like, psychologically damaged by someone refusing to implement a policy against Halloween costumes, I don't even know what to say about that. I don't even know where that lends. What that lends itself to long term. So,
how do you create like an equal mindset and morale in uni anymore? If this is what you're surrounded by, how do you build opinions on things, like fair opinions?
You can't. In fact, let me show you. Sorry, I didn't add this to the thing. This is pretty good, which is very rare. Let me just see if I can find it for you. Feel free to pontificate more while I just Google this.
I don't know. It's just like, maybe it's because I'm from a working class background, but unis always talk about in this area, like, this is where you go, and when you make it, you finally understand life. You build so many more opinions, you meet so many more people, and now it's like jazz hands, not the PTSD from clapping.
But this is what I mean. But I've taught about this phenomenon quite often. And this is, this is basically what happens in, when people of actual privilege, which, let's be honest, a lot of us are in the West by comparison to the rest of the world, have to invent problems, because we need to feel that we need to struggle against something. We're having this existential breakdown where we're literally inventing problems where there aren't any, and people do it. They do it all the time, and this is what it's given birth to. That this extreme political correctness, combined with a genuine lack of problems to be fighting against, has led to this, where you end up fighting problems on campuses that aren't actually real. And here's the thing. When I was a student activist, we went on marches against entering into the Iraq War. We went on marches against student debt. We went on support marches for other sort of other put upon groups that weren't getting a fair deal from the government. We also tried to actually make students have a better time to actively go up. We in fact, it was in our constitution at the university I was at, where the satirical magazine that I edited for 2 years could not come under basically, kind of an assault from NUS by enforcing their policies, that satire was a form of protected speech. We had to fight against this time and time again. Unfortunately, the modern American student is exercising its right to be treated like children and loving every second of it. That is the fundamental problem here, that they want to be protected from the bogeymen of free speech, that they don't want free. They would sacrifice everything to be protected from having to hear somebody with a differing opinion. And let's not forget, there's an online culture now where disagreement is harassment. So I have absolutely no idea what the future will hold.
If you're so scared to use the opposite opinion of yours, maybe your opinion isn't that strong. Maybe hearing the simple facts of the thing would sway you to the opposite. Maybe that's why.
But this is the thing as well, because their beliefs are deemed to be right, and you can only have their beliefs, that you have to be really into this. You recognize all of the equalities, all of everyone's rights, which some people do, some people don't. Some people have arguments against it, but also as well, you have to get into this whole idea of you will militantly enforce it if anybody disagrees. And this is what's hilarious, that they call it not banning, not censorship. They call it no platforming.
Fucking hell.
They don't realize that that's the exact same type of language used by like Maoist China, like communist regimes the world over. They just say, "Hey, we're not giving you a platform. We're taking your platform away. You have the right to free speech, but you just can't say it to anybody because we're not going to give you a platform." And they're perfectly comfortable with this. So it's shocking. And here's the worst part: Yale is an elite level university. These are your future policymakers. These are your future business managers. These are your future community leaders.
And future cuckolds, let's be real.
Yeah. So anyway, I think we're running out of time, aren't we, Sam? And I did want to move on and talk about the Missouri protests. Maybe we'll get into that next week. But the bottom line is the American university experience is one that seems to be about reinforcing the status quo views, providing safe spaces over critical thinking, over, dare I say it, learning. And it's a worrying trend, to say the least. Any final thoughts from you before we check out?
I am officially triggered, just like the end of every I Hate It Here, so it must have been a success.
Well, I'm just applauding you. Yeah, it's...
Can't hear me, but I am doing jazz hands.
Imagine if you had no hands. Wouldn't that be triggering?
Yeah, that's a bit triggering.
If you got up to give a speech and you had no arms, and someone's got a nice one, mate.
It's like my left foot, mate.
Can't do this, can you?
Wiggles his toes, mate.
Can't clap either, mind you, if you had no hands.
He's fucked both.
Or you could try. I don't know. Fuck knows.
Smash his chin against his chest.
Fuck, Anyway, I think we'll end it on that terrible point. We brought it back to a puerile note at the end. Anyway, thanks a lot for your contribution, Sam. And of course, thanks to all of you for listening to I Hate It Here. Now that I've got no events in the immediate future besides DreamHack Winter, we can get back to a more regular schedule. And until next time, that was the news. I wish it wasn't. See you next week.